Everyone, sorry, I think that's my usual OBS being weird thing. So I think there may be the old one's not relevant anymore. Let me just have a quick check. Yeah, damn, I'll get rid of that one. All good, we're here now. So hopefully everyone can see. Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer the way that I've done that, because if you click go on OBS and yeah, it's stuffed up. But anyway, hopefully we're all back on here. I'll just make sure that no one's hanging over on the other one. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to ping people over here now. I don't know if there'd be anyone here. Definitely have to cut this out at the start of this. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll just get rid of that afterwards. What do we got? We got a couple people here. Sweet, sweet, cool. Okay, I'm gonna edit that out and we're gonna start from here. So what I wanted to do this stream, basically, just to go through some of the basics of Unreal, even if there are some things that, you know, people already are familiar with Unreal and just want to be able to know some other parts of it, you know, maybe find something a little bit more advanced people. But let's try to sort of do a bit of a demo for all different levels, as far as, you know, advanced and intermediate. Hey Anne, how's it going? Anne, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, sorry. But yeah, if you have any questions for Unreal Engine, just shoot us in there and I'll get going. But I've written some things down that I wanted to go through that I find. So I actually use Unreal every day for virtual production as well. So not just for video games. So we actually use it for the company I'm working for at the moment. We use it for pre-production. So basically what that is, so previs to a movie is, so we would actually visualize the scene like a realistic storyboard inside of Unreal, and the director signs off on that and then moves forward. So I think what a lot of people, like the thing with Unreal that a lot of people are loving, is that it's the versatility of the different markets that it can be used in. So I think, you know, having a general understanding of how it works and wanting to, you know, have it as part of a pipeline when it wasn't really before, I think is a really cool thing. The future looks pretty bright with that, as far as it not just being a gaming thing. So let me just double check. That's all good. Sorry, yeah. That was a little bit of a tricky one with the existing stream. It really wigged me out a little bit, so it's all good. Hopefully people can come over here. If I get any messages from anyone, hit me up on Discord if you're lost or something. But cool. Edsel, what's going on, man? Man, girl, sorry, I'm not sure. So cool, yeah, let's go through some of the things that, this is just a demo scene, but I think probably the best place to start is, this was an old scene that I've brought into 5.5. So if there's anyone that has that is starting to work in Unreal and they've opened old files, a couple of the things, if you open it and things look weird and wrong, 5.5 is structured completely differently than like the defaults of what, you know, 5.1 and 5.2 are. So couple of things to go through if you open a new scene or convert a scene and everything looks wrong. This is one of the easiest things to go through and do. Is pretty much all scenes should have this enabled, is having ray tracing, enable ray tracing. And then also if you go down to Windows down here, and then make sure that DirectX 12 is on, and then you'll restart it. And I guarantee you that'll probably fix a lot of the problems that you've got if you do convert an old file. So yeah, I just had that issue when I started this file because this is just an old materials file. So let's go through firstly materials. So materials in Unreal are a little bit different than other programs. The way that they have you would have a master material and a material instance. So let's go through and make one from scratch, just for anyone who hasn't done it before. So here's our content browser over here. You know what, let's even make a new folder. So we'll get a new folder, materials. Okay, so this is where we're going to make our materials. So the same way that another program, you would create a material, there's almost 2 stages in Unreal. You can always use a master material as it, but the editability is way out the window. So what we want to do is create material. Okay, so let's call this, let's call it metal. So the shortcodes that I like to use for materials is M underscore and then say, for example, metal. And then when we make the instance of this, which you'll see in a second, that'll be MI underscore metal. So you'll have your master materials and your material instances as 2 separate things. So when we open this up, the interface of opening a material is a lot like the Slate material editor or the Hypershade in Maya. It's, the material and then a bunch of nodes that you can drag off it, same as Blender as well. But this is where we create the functionality for our instance. So I like to think of this as making how would you say it? This is where you create the parameters for the material instance. So let's say we want to make a color adjuster. So when we're in Unreal Engine Live, we can be adjusting the color on the fly. So what you want to do here is hit tab, and this is kind of your one-stop shop for adding nodes inside of the material editor. Is just hit tab, and then that opens that up. And then what we can do for the color is called 3 vector. Constant 3 vector. So here we can plug this into base color. Now it's going to be black still because we haven't got anything on there, but this color, whatever we put this color to, is going to be the default color of here. So let's just set it as white for now. And then we want to right click on this and convert it to a parameter. So what converting it to a parameter does is when we make our material instance, we can adjust it in real time. Because right now, I'll demonstrate it. So if I save this, so all we've got is cool. We've got a material and a color, a white color going into the base color. Great. So say this guy here, I'm going to drag him onto him. So he's white. You can see, you can also, if you have your mesh selected and scroll down over here, you can see, okay, that element 0 is there. I can just drag this over onto that and we'll go on. But if I was to now open this and say, okay, I want to make it red, hit OK, still nothing, hasn't changed, doesn't change until I hit save. and now you'll get your color. That's not what we want. What we want is to be able to adjust it on the fly, the same way with basically every parameter in here. So let's set that back to white. And what you want to do, this goes for the same for anything that you plug into here. You want to convert it to a parameter. And then in here, we can call it, okay, color, right? So we have our color. So if we hit save, cool, goes back to default. Now, if we get out of this, yes. Okay, so now if we save this, right click on the material that we made and create material instance. Just hit save on that. So watch what happens when we open this. It's a completely different window, which will list all of the parameters that we've adjusted and set inside of the master material. So if we bust open this global vector parameter here, you'll see color. And this is the color that we set on in the master before. So if I now drag this instance, and you can see that changed M material instance. I should practice what I preach, right? What I want to do is rename this. Rename it MI. Yeah, and I'll hit save on that. So now if I drag that material instance over here, I can open the material instance, and then I can actually change the color from here. And it's live. So that's the beauty of master materials and material instances. Hey Gus, how's it going, bro? Yeah, again guys, if you've got anything that you want to know Unreal wise, just hit me up in the chat there, and I'll get to it. I'll get to it now, but I'm just going to go through my list of basic stuff until we get there. So this is generally the process of master materials and material instances, and then you can have this entire long list here of adjustable parameters inside of Unreal, inside of the material instance. So yeah. Let's go through the movie render queue. So movie render queue is basically how you would get renders out. Yeah, man, ask anything, ask away. Depends what you want to know. And also, yeah, if the audio is all good, let me know. What's going on, dude? Gosling, my boy. No worries, brother. So as far as actually rendering things out from Unreal, there's a couple of extra steps that other programs don't have. So what we want to do is, first of all, have a camera. So we have a camera here. I've just added that in. These are some of the ones from before that I used for the thumbnail. So let's say we want to have a look at this one. So let's go to Active 5. Okay, cool. So you can see that this is what the thumbnail was on the social media. So say I wanted to render this out. Audio is very nice, very clear, perfect. Folder structure. Yeah, okay. I can actually give you a good tip. So we'll come back to movie render queue. I can give you a good tip on folder structure as far as setting up it externally from Unreal. So give me 1 second and I'll just open this up for you. So if I just bring this over here, let me find it quickly first. So if the way that Unreal works is you have this content browser here, but it's also, that content browser lives outside of Unreal. So Unreal projects, what have I called this project that we're working on? Material scene. Cool. Okay, I'll try to just keep that off there. So what you can see here is this section is just mirrored from here. And what you can do is you can actually get to this. I can hide that. Perfect, even better. Cool. So this is our mirrored section from the content section here. So content, you can see all these folders here correspond to here. Now, what I like to do is, say I'm working in Maya or ZBrush or Substance and I'm exporting from those programs, I export straight into this. So let's say I had a folder called meshes, right? You see that pop up right there? So it actually pops up directly. This is just a mirror of this. I find that this is a better way to manage your files when you're exporting things from other programs, is to have to just be comfortable with the Explorer section of it as far as this as well. So I would set this meshes section as the export location from Maya, and then say you had textures here too. So this is where I would send the textures from Substance Painter. So it automatically updates inside of Unreal, so you don't have to keep plugging everything back in again. Once you set the material up once, you can then send everything straight to your content folder, and then you don't have to drag it, and then it would just automatically update inside Unreal. So I think organizing files, the naming and the types of different, folder structure isn't really, whatever works for you is great, but I think getting into the habit of exporting things directly to the engine, the actual content folder of the engine, it saves a lot of time and there's only ever one location for it. So I think that's a really good tip to know. I hope that's sort of what you're asking. If that helps, if there's anything else, let me know. If you want me to dive a little bit deeper into that. It's a pretty good segue. I can continue to work with the folder structure here as I'm doing things. So say I wanted to render this out like I was saying before. I usually have a folder for my renders, which is called sequences. So I would usually have a sequence per camera. So let's go to cinematics, new level sequence. Sup, Jared, bro? I'm going to teach you everything you need to know, dude. I'm joking. I know nothing, but hopefully we can learn something. This is, I know you like rendering, so this is probably a good place to start. So we'll just jump back a sec. So in content, sequences. So a good rule of thumb, I'm just going to keep going through my personal good rules of thumb, so it's a bit easier when you're doing it yourself. Level sequence, I usually do, you can stack cameras in here, but if I'm doing renders for a portfolio and I have multiple cameras like I do in here, I'll try, brother. I would call the sequences the same as the cameras. So let's just do it in real time. So, for example, definitely not camera. I'm not New Zealander. So camera 5. So we're going to open a sequencer. Boom. We've got our sequencer, but we've got nothing in it. So the sequencer is sort of like the place that you would drop all the information. These are your render settings. This is basically your render settings section. So we're going to go down to, let's close all this stuff, just sort of some of the demo assets. So camera 5, let's have a look at him. So this is the guy that we wanted to render. We're happy with the shot. Everything in the camera settings is sweet. What you want to do is drag this camera into the sequencer, and then it's like, okay, now I know what we're talking about. I know we want to render this camera. So what I was talking about before with multiple cameras, you can actually drag in multiple cameras in here and stack them. So say this camera was animating like this. You would animate it in here, and if it was to cut to another camera, you just drag it in like that. So let's cut to here, and you can see, we could even just do it quickly, but yeah, just like that. So it would render this and then cut to that one. Awesome, cool. But we don't want to do that right now. We just want to just focus on the one camera. But if you see people render out multiple things with multiple camera cuts, it's literally just have a sequence and drop them in. But if you're doing still renders, I like to keep it nice and concise, like a sequence per camera is my way of working. But if I was doing an animation, definitely in one track and then just stack it all the way through. Would companies' team have different workflow or folder structure how they approach things? Absolutely, man. Like, I think the the preconceived idea that studios are like this well-oiled machine and everything, on a base level, every studio I've ever worked at they are that, where it is, okay, here's our general structure, and it has to be, because we're working digitally, we have so many different files that we need to work with. But there is like a method to the madness kind of thing, like, day-to-day work stuff does get in the way. Like, there is like a dump folder that you can just throw stuff in, and so I think it's more about just sort of rolling with what works and trying not to let it get too out of hand. It seems to me like it's like an issue for you. So I think maybe just being really strict with your own personal structure is maybe the best way moving forward, and trying to stick with that and try not to dump stuff everywhere as much as possible. And I think like I said before, exporting from the programs. So have a meshes folder, have a textures folder, and have them exporting from the programs that you're coming from. So Maya sends it to the meshes folder in the content folder here, for example, right? So in Maya, you would go, okay, I'm sending it to the content folder meshes, so there's nowhere else it can go, and you're not dragging it in from somewhere else. Hey Frankie, thanks for all that you're doing for the community. Appreciate it a ton. How to present characters that I have made from scratch. Topology. How to present them. Okay, cool. I'll get into that in a sec. We'll go through how to render it out. So say this was your character. Let's just do this part first, and then I'll show you how to present stuff. So you've dragged your camera in. Let's just do it one more time, just in case. Get rid of that. Okay, cool. All right, so we're here and we're like, sweet, we want to render out our camera 5. So, oh, he's still in there. Get rid of that. Okay, so we've got nothing in our sequencer. Cine camera actor, drag him in, sweet. Okay, so this is the camera that we want to render out. What we want to do here, first of all, if you ever see this little asterisk, it just means it's not saved. You can hit save and then it will go away. Move your render queue. This is our setting. So this is the legacy. Perfect. We don't have it enabled. So because this is another fall off from converting this file, I don't have movie render queue enabled here because it's just movie scene capture. So what we're going to do is actually enable it. I'm just trying to think how I can do this because I know it's going to restart afterwards, and it's all right. going to go down to plugins. Movie render queue, movie render queue additional passes. Now this is going to happen a lot. You know, if something isn't there, basically it's going to live in plugins or in your project settings. Cool. So I've got that sorted. Yes. A lot of the times when you change things in plugins as well, you're going to need to restart. So I'm going to restart it now. I'm just trying to think if there's something that I can have open. Yeah. How about Xbox? Save selected. Let's keep this open. Let's just keep this open for while we're restarting, because I don't know what's on my desktop. It's probably messy as. Look at that, Diablo on Game Pass. The original Diablo, jeez. Usually when all the shaders are compiled, the restart's pretty quick, so. So yeah, make sure you ask some stuff, guys, because I've just gone through my list of basic stuff. So if it's all too basic for you, then let's crank it up a bit, eh? All right, cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, we do. Yeah, EXRs exporting for Nuke. Okay, let's get back to this. So cool. Let's go back to our sequences. That I did before was just a filter. So I'm just filtering things that I'm looking at. So we want to turn off the level, and then open our sequencer again. Cool. We're back here. So the difference now is we've got movie render queue. So you don't want movie scene capture. You're not going to get high quality out of that. Don't worry, open that. So let's go into movie render queue. So this is what we want. So the map that we're in is obviously just the map that we're on, and then our camera 5. This is where we're going to change our settings. So in unsaved config, there's a bunch of different settings in here, but let's just go through, you know, some easy stuff, simple stuff to get out something that looks good. Let's go through, we'll get rid of JPEG. What type of file do we want? Let's call it an EXR, make it look something nice. No compression. Deferred rendering is basically what you're seeing here. So say we didn't want deferred rendering and we wanted to do something like path tracing, which is, you know, what we're used to in Arnold and Cycles and V-Ray and all those other renders. That's basically what path tracing is. So depending on what your workflow is in here, whether you've done path tracing or deferred rendering is what you would choose. But let's just do a deferred rendering one for now. Output, you know, let's just set it to the desktop for now. Set it to the desktop. Yeah, cool. Don't worry about all the sizes there. What we do want to change is the output resolution, because this matters. So if we have our camera, okay, another cool thing, don't need to click camera here to go to the camera. Jump back. If you've got it in the sequencer, you can click this little guy here, and now it's going to lock the viewport to the camera that we're working with, which is pretty helpful. So what we want to do, this number here matters to what the camera is. So we want to set this X and Y to what the camera in the sequencer is. Does path tracing denoiser work in the viewport in 5.5? I actually don't, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Okay, I'm going to get back to that in a sec. Let me just I'll finish this quickly and then we'll go straight into that, because I'm pretty much at the end of this here. So if we go to camera 5, Was our film back. Okay, so we're 16 by 9. So 16 by 9 is, you know, social media. So it's 9 by 16, sorry. So it's a HD screen sideways. So that's easy. All we want to do basically is flip these. Cool additional thing that you can do all through Unreal if you ever need to do it. Say I wanted to times this 1080 by 2. You can just hit *2, like on the numpad on the keyboard, and hit enter, and it will double it. It's pretty cool. And same with divide if you wanted to do that, but that's okay, that's all sorted. And then anti-aliasing. So anti-aliasing is really good for when you're adjusting your samples in the render engine as opposed to the post-process volume. Let's turn this desktop volume down just a little bit, just so it's not too loud. Let me know if the volume's going all right. So I've seen a lot of different people, like, you know, doing methods like this where it's, you know, you're multiplying. You can always turn override anti-aliasing off when we're using it here. But you have like a high spatial count and a temporal sample count. I actually don't know what like the best system is for what you're doing, like, because it's always project dependent. Like there's not one size fits all. I have found a good one size fits all, which is this. If you ever want to just, you know, get a good result out of Unreal and not really want to have to think about it, go for it. That's 64 and 64 has worked really well for me. Render warm-up frames as well is something that, you know, when you render something and like you haven't given it enough time and it's not accurate to what it should be, like the lighting hasn't built properly and all the textures, render warm-up count gives it, like, the way I see this section is like, make it as true to what I want it to look like. Just get rid of all the crap first, is that. So, and that's it. So, I think that's a very helpful trick. And then the last one, we're not rendering a movie, we're rendering a single frame. So custom playback range 0 to 1, and then that's just going to render you that one frame. Unsaved, which is not what we want. So if we can save as a preset, you know, camera 5 settings. So now we know every time we want to do our camera 5, everything's already set up. We can click accept, and then if we hit render local, we'll have to wait for all these shaders to compile so I can answer some questions in the meantime. Does path tracing do it working? Yep, so we're going to check that in a second. Do you import characters for your portfolio renders in a blank file in Unreal, or do you have a preset for that? I actually prefer to use a blank file because setting it up is so easy. I prefer to do it in a blank file, man. So, and I would recommend that as well, because the amount of times that Unreal opens releases new engine versions, I think it's just better to open a brand new file. Unreal does a really great job of, okay, if you've got 5.5, open a 5.5 file and you're going to get, you know, everything out of the box. All the plugins are going to be selected and installed and ready to go. So yeah, this is great. As we can see here, you can see the subsample. So 64 times 64 gives you 4K worth of samples. We've got our cine camera actor, camera 5. There's no camera cuts. It's rendering one frame of 1, which is what we want, just a single frame. And this is just our low quality preview, but it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good as far as what we wanted. I'm guessing, you know, it's pretty true to the viewport. But that's pretty much how I would set up a deferred rendering through the movie render queue in Unreal. So scrub back, go through all that, what I went through there. If you've got any questions or anything I didn't touch on, basically touch on everything to get a render out, which is pretty good. I'll just escape that. Cool. because that was just going to render out and whatever, but that's it. So yeah, let's have a look at that path tracer, man. Let's have a look. So don't know what the texture streaming budget's going over for. Disregard it. Okay, path tracer, let's have a look. Okay, so now we're in the path tracer. Looks so good, doesn't it? Denoiser. So let's run the denoiser through the post-process volume. Yep. Okay. Okay, well there's the denoiser for the path tracer. I'm gonna say that it's working. What we can do is actually, let's go samples and set path tracing samples low. Let's set it to 1024. No, let's set it to 256. So this bar, let's get this cranking all the way up really, really quickly. Okay, and let's have a look and see. Okay, let's see how good it does. I reckon that did denoise. And you know how we're going to check is we're going to go denoiser, turn it off, move around again. It looked very similar. I don't know if there's a different model that it might be denoising, because it looks like it's sort of calculating at the end there. Ah, there you go. Yep. So that's it off. So you'd have to have it on. Okay, so off, it's on by default. That's what it looks like. So what we want to do is we want to have the denoiser on in this column, but then off in the true and false. That's Unreal does that a lot, where it's like you have to have it on, but then tell it to go off. So you can see here, see this fuzziness right here. Awesome. I never really thought about that, because I don't really like to use the denoiser. I like to use denoising outside. Secret level Unreal team shared their settings on their recent video on their actual movie render queue settings. Yeah, I'd love to know that. I'll have to watch it. Shoot me a message of it. I'd love to watch it. But yeah, so this is the path tracer. It looks like they do have the denoiser, dude. So there you go. What was the other question that I missed? I appreciate a ton how to present characters. I mean, I can open my I can open one of my characters and console variables. Yeah, cool. So let's just open one and I can show you how I presented it if that helps. But then we'll come back to this. Just put it at lit. Even the deferred rendering, it looks so good, right? So let's go library. Let's go the latest one, I guess. Cool. So you've probably saw a lot of what I was doing there with the post-process volume. So post-process volume is basically the settings, viewport settings for everything. So you're always going to want to have a post-process volume in your scene. Yeah, that bar finishing is the sort of, but like you said, we can change that with post-process volume. So I'll just go back and do it again, dude. So if we go path tracer, so if in your post-process volume, so when you drag, okay, let's just do this from scratch. So get rid of the post-process volume. A lot's changed there. Obviously there was some exposure stuff. Let's go into volumes. So this little guy here, quickly add to the project, volumes, post-process volume. Even when I add it, I still think they should just get rid of this. Like the default should be that it's encompassing of the whole world. But the fact that you need to do this every time is infinite extend unbound. So what that means is, if we go back to lit, post-process volume, it's only going to affect what's in this box. But if you click this, it just affects the whole scene. So I think it should be the other way around, personally. But that's here nor there. Anyway, so that's set. Our post-process volume's in. Color looks a little bit different. So the exposure, that would have been what I had before. Max min. So I like to clamp the exposure in here. So I've got it completely set to what I want. Max there. Cool. So that's set. And then it's completely driven by this. So you've just got one slider that adjusts your exposure for the scene. Handy tip that I got from someone once upon a time. And just to prove the point of the infinite extend unbound, so if I go infinite and turn this off and I fly into this box, see, now it's, so this just does it for the whole scene, which is very helpful. It's helpful, but it's annoying that they should just put it, I feel like this is a more better use case for it too. Yeah, it's annoying, right? Cool. So the samples for the post-process volume. So if we go back to path tracing, this bar is basically indicative of these samples. So if I put that at 16, look how quick that was. If I put it at 32, it's not trying to shoot that many samples. So it's way better. It's way better, you know, if you're just working in the viewport to set this number a little bit lower, so that you can work with the path tracer live, sort of like Blender, like the way that this is, you know. I mean, look how quick that is. It's awesome. So the post-process volume is so good. Like there's so much stuff in here that you can use to change different things inside the scene. So yeah, the old post-process volume. So I'll go back to lit while I open up the other scene, because I wanted to show you my the character. Here we go. Get out of this. And now I can practice what I preach here. Let's put the samples down. How's that for denoising? You want to know if the denoiser works? So let's put the denoiser on, but off. Cool. So this is great. Like I'm just going back and forth. You can see sort of my workflow here is adjusting the samples. You know, the exposure, like the post-process volume out of the box is pretty good. It's just, you know, I would clamp the exposure and then set your samples. Those are like the two biggest things. But as far as, you know, lighting my scene and making it let's have a look at, let's crank this up a little bit so we can see. I'll pull back a little bit so we can see camera speed. So I'll pull this back. There are all my lights. I've got a cyc wall here. Cyc wall is basically just a backdrop. So it's like a curved, I'll just double click it and show you. It's basically just a curved wall that is good for reflecting light bounces. And I put him in there like that. I'll just adjust this color so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Cool. So a darker wall will bounce and crush those shadows a little bit better. So that's why I like to use like a black backdrop. But yeah, I would basically just put it in world space like this, put some lights on it, and that's it. I can tell you a couple of tricks that I did with, okay, so the hair, I mean, this is, yeah, we're going to start getting in the weeds pretty hard here if I start going through every single thing. Presented in Unreal, give it a brief walkthrough of how you did it. Yeah, just let me know if what I'm saying is helpful, dude, and then let me know if there's anything else you would want to know. Custom shaders, yes. So the custom shaders are basically the master materials like I was talking about before. So I can show you for this character, for example. I had 3 texture sets for him, but I split it up in different materials because I needed different material qualities. Like I wanted to have subsurface on the beads, for example. So you could actually see like there was a little bit of subsurface on the beads, but there was still under the clothing set. So I just split them up in materials when I was organizing it in Maya. But I can show you the material instance, for example. So I've got a bunch of global parameters as far as micro detail, fuzz, enabling subsurface, using packed map. Here's all my channels. Adjustment for adjusting the maps in engine. Fuzz map is for the Fresnel IOR. These master materials you can get. I think I made this one. I'm not sure if I got this from somewhere, but this is it's basically, you know, you can rip them from the metahumans as well, where, you know, you can have this master material and it has all the hard work done for you here. And then all you would need to do is right click it and create a material instance. And then you've got this great, you know, one-stop shop that's got a bit of everything. So you could use, so if you're using a clothing, you know, style-based material, master material, you can use that for all your clothing, and then you would just have a skin one as well. So they are sort of, you know, in depth and custom, but I mean, a lot of Unreal, the beauty of Unreal is you can just rip the stuff from metahumans. I just grabbed the master material from metahuman, which is great. I will give a trick. I've actually seen this quite a bit, and I think that it's really easy to do. And I don't know if I'm right here or if I think it looks better or worse, but this is actually really hard to do in Unreal, I found, because the pivot points are a huge thing in Unreal. What I wanted to do here, I'll just crank this thumbnail size up. The turntable one. rotating a camera around a character instead of rotating the character. So this is the turntable render that I did. I'm not rotating the character here. I'm rotating the camera around the character's pivot. So to do that, you need to have the pivot at the character, and Unreal does not make, unless there's something I was missing, that is not easy to do. So what I did is I actually parented the camera to the actor of this cone here and centered the cone. Where's that camera? Is it all the way back here? Yeah. See him moving? So I'm actually just rotating the cone and using the axis and then having the camera rotate with... Hold up. Is he this one? Which is a moving camera. Camera 2. Ah, there he is. Yep. So I've got the actor there and then put the cine camera in the actor. And you can see it's rotating around like that. I find a lot, this way the lighting stays the same. It's not jarring at all. So this way, see the highlights on the arm there? They always stay the same. But if you rotate the model, it will move around the lights and the lights will move around the model then. And I think it looks a bit weird. To me, this is a much cleaner way to do turntables. Rotate the camera, don't rotate the actual model itself. So that's just a tip. That I feel that, yeah, I feel that it's not really an Unreal thing, just a general thing in anything is, it could just be a personal preference, but yeah, so that's pretty much my setup, man. I did have an environment scene for this, which is another good segue into how to set up different levels. So say that I had this scene here where it was cool, I had my turntable, but I was like, okay, I want to put him in like a jungle or something like that. I wouldn't just start making the jungle in here. What Unreal uses is a thing called levels. So levels are, think of it as like files inside the project, or like a scene inside the project. So I've actually got, as you can see here, the environment scene. If I shuffle this, they might get it all together. Cool. So the actual environment scene level. So for example, I go bang and would click a new level and say I wanted to put him on the moon, right? Then that would be the moon level. But every time you open a new level, there's nothing there. So you would need to build a new scene. But for this guy, I actually built, let's not save that. I actually built a bit of a background for him. So I'm still in my character project. So then I went ahead and then used a bunch of assets and built this environment as a bit of a background. So if I go to my cinematic, so get rid of them. So now I have a completely different map, basically, with a whole bunch of new settings. So you've still got, I'm still in my project, so I still have all my elements there, and I have my own level sequence and my own So cinematic level sequence, cinematic settings for my render queue. So everything's got something. So there's not like, oh, I need to reset that back up, reset that. You can even see here. So I have my main camera settings. Turntable settings. Close up settings. This way, there's no, issues with losing something or things not being accurate to what I want it to be the next time I pick it back up. It's just, I think it's a good rule of thumb. If you're doing stills, like it's pretty much like an easy go-to to do that. But yeah, so this was just like a little environment I knocked together. I can also sort of show you how I did this as well, which was another one that was in my notes here, is how to put together hold up one sec. I think there could be some. I'll show you how to put together some an environment like this. I'll just close this for now because we've got this scene open. Okay, so in Unreal, you have different modes and settings that you can be in, and it's all selected by up here. So if you got to this drop down, regularly when you're just hanging out, yeah. So I did kit bash the environment. So I'll show you how I did it, and I'll show you how we can. You know what I can do? I'll go back to game, and I'm going to go to the directional light. So I'll just bring this in here like this so we can see. So this is just a little, it was purely for a blurred background environment. Like it wasn't supposed to be anything special. But I can show you just how I knocked it together. So in here, if you go to foliage, you would drag in all your assets that you get from, bridge or even static meshes that you have. You can just drag them into here. And then when you've got them selected, so say, I want, one sec. If I click that, just make sure they're all unselected. So say I want to paint with these three. So I'll select those three, have the paint tool. And now what you can do is you can paint into your scene. Where's the... Set offset. It is working. They're just really small. I was like, why is that not working? So you can just go through and sort of like, okay, now I want, let's turn them off. I want these weedy looking ones. But the density, I want the density to be, 200. And then that's how I would, build a cool environment. Is just it's sort of like anything in any three, like it's variety, it's layering, it's putting, different bits on top of each other to make it look like it's a real thing. So, you know, just paint in all this stuff. And as far as the terrain itself, so this is foliage mode. So this is the step after landscape. So when you're in landscape mode, you basically can build this area off. All you need to do is just jump into landscape mode, and it will say, okay, how big do you want your landscape to be? I made mine, you know, X amount of whatever. And then you just sculpt the same way that you would sculpt in like a sculpting program. You can make, okay, I want it to have like a valley here. And then, yeah, just build an area. And then you can jump over back. So say I wanted to this, oh, that's too high. I want to, you know, flatten that because I'm going to put like a statue on it or something. And then jump back to foliage. Go, oh, I want to put some shrubs on there around the base of the statue. And it's kind of, you know, a series between jumping through those different modes to art direct your scene. And yeah, so that's selection, landscape, and foliage is pretty good. That's pretty much all I would need. But as far as the assets, like these assets here, I get them from Bridge, and I'm really happy that Bridge has stayed incorporated inside of Unreal, because it's a lot easier than needing to use like a plugin, you know, like a external plugin like we would have had to do with Fab. I mean, and I know Fab, you know, is probably great, and I think there's just a little bit of teething issues at the moment with some of the ways that they export things. So it's good to know that this is still here. But as far as, you know, shrubs and how we would use them, if I go to 3D plants, for example, and say, all right, I want to use this thing. Sweet, high quality. That's already, don't need to do any of that. We'll just hit download. Let it do its thing. Sweet. And then we hit add. And then it actually drops it into, so if I hide this. So Bridge does a really great job of organizing it for you. We were talking about file management before. Bridge automatically gives you a Megascans folder, and then 3D assets, plants, surfaces. It breaks everything up. Decals, I think, has its own one as well. But say those plants right there that I just got, the desert cotton, there's your mesh, and then mesh and materials and textures. So if I want to paint with that, we'll go foliage. Let's say this one, this one, this one. Drag them in. Yeah, good idea, man. I'll do that in a sec. Okay, cool. So then we go bang, bang, bang. Grab all those new ones. Start painting with them. Look at that. It's as easy as that. If you were to animate the camera, say for a zoom or zoom out shot of the character with the environment and render the video, would you do it manually or use the cone trick? I'd do it manually. I would do it manually. The only reason that I was doing it the way before was because the axis point of the pivot of the camera was off. So I just found it easier to put it at the base of the character with another object. But I think as far as like tracking and things like that, it's it's just easier to do it with the camera, and you would animate that in the sequencer. So, perfect example. So this guy here, you can see the location. I've animated from point A to point B, just like that. So I feel like what you're asking, sort of the same thing where it's like you set a point and do it. The only reason that I did it with the cone trick was that the pivot points are weird in Unreal. So if you were to animate the camera, talk about the environment mixer. Good idea. Let's do that. So something that I've seen someone do a demonstration of before, where it's like doing everything from scratch, is sick in Unreal now, because it's so easy to do it from scratch by deleting everything. So let's just delete every bit of lighting in here. I'll keep the rec lights because they're nothing. They're not part of the volumetric cloud, sky atmosphere. Let's get rid of everything. You know what? Let's just do it to prove a point here. Let's go the rec lights. Get rid of them. So the only thing that's in this scene right now are my little like lantern things, right? So what we want to do is light this scene. And the way that Unreal has made it super easy now is they have its own window for like its own light mixer purely for environment. So you could go down to window and then go down to environment light mixer. And then when you have this open, you have all these buttons at the top here. And if I make a new folder here, and let's call it environment lights. So if I create a skylight, directional light, sky atmosphere, volumetric cloud, and height fog. Right off the bat, you've got all your things in the scene already. This probably looks a little bit weird. Yeah, because I've got my post-process volume on there. But this is a pretty good place to start as far as, getting all the... I like to put them all in one place. I don't like that they don't do that. I think that's everything. And the volumetric cloud. So if we wanted to, just muck around with this now. So say directional light, cast volumetric shadow. Yep, cool. Let's add in volumetric. Oh no, it's exponential height fog. My bad. So volumetric fog and the directional light work together. And then so there's a bunch of different settings that you can go through that work with this. But I think as far as, setting things up from scratch, the environment light mixer is really, really good. And then you can also have all the parameters for your directional light. For all the things that you've added to your scene, you can adjust it in here. So yeah, that's what I would be doing if I'm setting up characters, man. That's pretty much it. And it's, all about layering, all about adding more things in, refining it, and just getting it to a point that looks good. There's no real quick fix, even though, Unreal makes it pretty easy. I think out of the box, just using their out of the box tools is really, really good. So I'll just jump back to here. If there's anything else that you guys want to know quickly before I jump off, because I've just been going over an hour here. This is another scene that I did for the... So you're watching this in real time right now, right? So I've just opened the clay scene. I go, cool, I want to see the sequencer for that. Cool, and I want to jump into the camera. That's it. bang. And then I've already got the settings saved. So see, I've got my clay scene settings there. And it's all just ready to go to hit render on. And this scene's pretty simple. Like, it's literally just a couple of lights and the mesh is duplicated and a simple camera. But yeah, if there's nothing else, dudes and dudettes, would have been going for just over an hour. That's pretty much what I wanted to do. Unreal's so big and so crazy. I mean, I know that I jump around a lot. Hopefully that there was some stuff in there that was helpful. But yeah, so I'm pretty close to, I've been hitting YouTube a little bit harder lately because I'm pretty close to the YouTube partner stuff, which is great. Hopefully that means, I can start putting a little bit more production quality into the work that I'm doing, and, being able to do memberships, being able to do more feedback sessions, being able to do a lot more one-on-one stuff. That means a lot to me. So if that's something that you guys are into as well, I'd love to know. I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, thanks for everyone for stopping by. Thanks, dude. I didn't get that link before. I think YouTube blocks the link, so maybe send it to me on Discord. But yeah, for everyone, thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you in the next one. See yous.